And you're back in the room. Remember when you clicked your heels and wished for Kansas? Sorry, you ended up here. It's the big interview. I'm Graham. It's good to have you on board. If it's the first time, well, you're in for a treat. If you're a regular listener, you're in for a treat too. So welcome to the Big Interview podcast. If you enjoy this, tell people, leave a review. We'll be eternally grateful, and you'll feel good about yourself. Today, our guest is Kevin Campbell, once of Arsenal, Nottingham Forest, Trabzonspor, Everton and West Brom. And I mentioned in the early stage of this interview that he's a real rarity. Football is an industry where heroes can be made quickly, but it's extraordinarily rare that any footballer is extremely popular at all the clubs where he's played. For Kevin, that seems to come naturally. There's affection for him everywhere, partly for the way he played, what he achieved, his manner. He's one hell of a person, huge personality, but he was good at his job. That popularity I'm talking about is most certainly the case in Turkey. And we're going to take him and you back to a recent trip to Trabzon and why Mr. Campbell still stops the traffic there. It's an extraordinary story. Listen out for the bit where he first realises that his dream partnership with Pierre van Hooijdonk is about to be broken up, that his new deal at Forest might not be materialising, and listen out for how he finds out about that. Here, amongst many great stories, is a very different take on Arsenal's epic title win at Anfield in 1989. From the crowd, yes, I'm giving clues away, and very nearly from the back of a police van. Plus, a unique angle on the very first sighting of the now retired, but then 14-year-old Wayne Rooney. Lots more too. Kevin is a brilliant storyteller, a skill he's currently using in his coverage of La Liga. And that's why we met in Barcelona to record this epic episode of the Big Interview. There's also plenty for fans of all the clubs that Kevin played for and for anybody who's interested in the texture and the colour, the madness, the fun of football. Kevin's career's got it all. Great stories, a colourful, exceptionally successful life in a sport that we all love, featuring one of the Premier League's terrific number 9 strikers, Mr. Kevin Campbell.
Cheers, Big Interview listeners. Celebratory glass of vodka here. Larger than normal? Are you surprised? The reason for celebrating isn't because we're recording this near Christmas. It's because we've got a gem of a guest. Somebody who scored goals and showed his ability everywhere he went. But you already know in football, it's very rare to be loved at every club you've been at. But our guest today, Kevin Campbell, was exactly that. And what's more, not only has he said he'll join us, but he's here in person. Months after the pandemic kicked in. We're back across the table. Kevin Campbell, I owe you so much for joining us. Just to be able to look across the table at a guest and say, body language counts in conversations.
It does.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. And the energy as well, Graham. I think the energy, having a straight interview as opposed to being on a Zoom call or just an audio call, you can bounce off, and I really enjoy that. So I enjoy speaking to you anyway.
You give off all, I'm notorious. People try and slap me down because I'm a little bit Tigger from Winnie the Pooh, bouncing around and stripy. And I am bouncy, fun. But you've got an element of that joy of life and joy of the profession and still spending time speaking about it. It radiates off you. That's natural, isn't it?
Yeah. I feel so empowered to have played the game and to still be in the game, speaking about it, because I think the insight from every pro is different. And there ain't a lot of pros who have been to the clubs I've been and done what I've done in the game. So I embrace it, Graham. I really do. I'm so happy to be here, and I can't wait to tell my story.
Well, recently we had on Alan McInally, and I wanted with Alan to take our listeners beyond, because Alan's got a brilliant, buoyant personality, which in Sky, people have kind of said, well, that must be him, but I knew there was more to him. And one of the things I wanted to bring out was that when I went to, I was covering Manchester United in the treble season, and they played Bayern Munich in the group, not just in the final. We went there and we bumped into Alan, who was over doing work and having a couple of beers, and I'm relatively sure it was the old Olympic Stadium. It was, because the new stadium opened in 2006 for the World Cup. And just in that little concourse coming into the Olympic Stadium, the place stopped. The reason I mention this is, the comparison is, I was speaking to somebody today who was like, I was in Trabzon with Kevin. And this is the Turkish city of Trabzon on the Black Sea.
Yeah.
And he said, it was stunning. 20 years after a relatively short spell as a star there, the city centre came to a standstill. Yeah. Now that to me breathes class, and if you can inspire love in a city where you were only there very briefly, you didn't speak the language. First of all, have I described the scenes that day correctly?
Yeah, you did. And I warned the crew and the guys of kind of what to expect, because the great thing about social media, Graham, is you can connect. Even though you're far away, you can connect with fan base. And the fan base all seem to reach out to me, and they still call me King Kev, and Crowley's King and stuff. And I still have friends who are Trabzon fans they're dotted all around Turkey now. But they say, you will forever be in the heart of Trabzon fans. So obviously I go back for the first time in 20 years. I'm not sure what to expect. I'll be honest with you, because they've got a new stadium, training ground's still the same. My old teammate Unal was the coach. He's not the coach no longer now, but he was the coach then. And it would be great to go back, see Shafiq, who's the masseur, still the masseur there now. But to just see the city, because a lot has changed in the city. So we go back and we land, and we're at the airport, and people don't know me at the start, which is great. And then all of a sudden, one of the security guys looks at me, and then all hell breaks loose at the airport. And this is in the dead of night. So we leave there and we go to the new stadium, and we take a few pictures, and the security guards at the stadium come out, and we're taking pictures, and they're calling friends, and I'm talking to people, etc. Get to the hotel, and the guys say, what is it? Why? I said, well, I was here 8 months, and I connected with the fans. The fans connected with me, and that's the best compliment I could pay to any fan base, and I could pay for myself, that when a player and a fan base connects, it's fire. It really is fire. So the next day, we're going around, get to the training ground. No, actually we go downtown, because we've got to get some paperwork stamped. And Graham, you're not going to believe this. So we're waiting to get through to this security, and in the next building, one of my friend works there. So he comes out, and he's there, and I'm looking at him, and we hug each other. So he gets us into the building where he is, and it's like an official building, and all the workers come down, and we all sit down outside, and we're having a coffee and a tea, and we're all talking football, and we're all telling stories about when I was there and walking in the town, and people are following me in the town. And the guy's like, wow. So we finish that, and we go into the town, park up, and we start walking.
Stand still.
Police have to turn up. there's roadblocks, you know, there's people coming out of shops and all sorts. And it's not older people, it's old, middle-aged, young.
So the legend's been passed down?
It's been passed down.
Wow.
And for me, that is, you can imagine, I'm surprised because I think the old people who were there when I was there would know me. But no, the youngsters know. So the legacy has been passed down, which I think is, it shocked me, to be honest, Graham.
I meant what I said, that the more I researched, and I've spoken to a couple of teammates and I've spoken to fans of clubs where you did your magic. And I know there are certain match days, I know there are certain areas of certain cities whereby something similar might happen. But that possibly is the most extreme. Now, could you have lived that way all your life? Because certain cities are like that all the time, certain stratospheres of footballers have that all the time. If we go into, I know that your love of music is maybe as big as your love of, if you're successful in the music industry, you're literally like that.
Yes.
Kind of 24/7, certainly as long as you're in mode. Could you have lived like that throughout your playing career?
Yeah, Graham, I think I could have. And here's the reason why. Who plays football to just be normal? No. You play football to make a difference. Now, and if you're a striker, you play football to be the guy, to make that difference. So if you do your job, you're going to be coveted, you're going to be held to a high standard. And that's the name of the game. You don't go to clubs if you don't think you could do the business.
Yeah, but you had a good, you know, all in 20, 25 years in the profession. Yeah. That would suck energy out of you if it had been like that for 19, 20 years, giving you energy. You wouldn't have got bugged off in a time when things aren't going well. Do you know what I mean?
Graham, let's look at it this way. When I was coming through at Arsenal, and George Graham took over in 1986, that was my first year as a full-time. That's what I wanted to do. I wanted to get in that Arsenal first team. I wanted to win trophies. I wanted to score goals. I wanted to be recognised all my life as a professional footballer who could do the business. So, whatever level you go at, you get a modicum of adulation. And the higher up you go, Graham, is the more adulation you get if you do the business. But when you can reach the top, it's a big drop if you don't stick to the standards. That's the difference. We've seen players hit the top and fall with a crash. But to try and keep that level is very, very difficult. And I'm so pleased. One is the mentality. You have to enjoy it, Graham. You have to love it. Because if you don't love it, it's not going to mean enough to you to want to keep that. So for me, I think living with it, I embraced it, Graham. I thought it was, people are going to be patting you on the back when you do well. And let's be honest, we all know when we don't do well. And there were times, even at Trabzon, where we were under pressure. You know, people will point the finger. Of course they will, because that, if you're the guy, that's what they're going to do.
Well, we spoke to Sir Les earlier in the series about moving to Turkey, and I want to because I want to touch on each phase of your career, and believe me, London Colney, Pat Rice, George Graham, my personal friend, I want to come to. But help us, tell me, put me back in the moment where you've knocked sixes out of the park at Forest, and Trabzon's offered to you. What goes through your mind? Why did you accept? Was there a degree of trepidation? Because it isn't just abroad. It's a markedly different culture with a language that you're probably not going to be able to get hold of, even if you'd stayed there, 8 years, never mind 8 months. Oh, I suspect that anyway. It's the meeting of Asia and Europe. It's a very different. So take us back to the moment. Your thought process, was it trepidation? Why did you go? Yeah, Trabzon, baby. That's the dream.
Well, it didn't quite work out like that, Graham. I've got to say, it didn't quite work out like that. I mean, we just got promoted for Nottingham Forest. Dave Bassett had offered me a new contract. We'd agreed. And he said, right, the contract's going to be ready Tuesday or Wednesday in the week. I go in Tuesday, contract's not ready, Graham. I go in Wednesday, contract's not ready. I go in Thursday, contract's not ready. I go in Friday, contract's not ready. So I ring him up and I say, Harry, I've been in Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. He said, leave it with me. So the next week he says it's going to be ready Tuesday, Wednesday. This is pre-season. Mm-hmm. So I go into Tuesday, no contract. Go into Wednesday, no contract. Go into Thursday, Graham, no contract. I thought, do you know what? So I said, Harry, look, there's no contract, something's up. We're supposed to be going to pre-season tour at the weekend. We're training at the ground on the Friday. And this is where things start to get funny. We're training at the stadium, so at the city ground. We finished the session. All of a sudden, we could hear this chanting going on from the car park at the city ground. Next minute, in the corner is where an ambulance would come. It's like a gap between the Trent end stand. There's about 50 Trabzon fans have come round the corner. I don't know who they are. And they're singing and chanting. I don't know, because I've not even been told anything about Trabzon. But that was the first time I've even seen a Trabzon scarf.
Get out of here.
This is the truth. So we're all there warming down and stretching and stuff. Have they got a game against Notts County?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So go in, shower, and I come out, and they're all wanting to take pictures with me. So I'm thinking it's all the players, they're taking pictures with the players. Little do I know, I get home, the phone rings, and I'm told that the club have accepted a bid from Trabzonspor for me. You're not getting a new contract, and it's in your best interest to take it. So there's me, back in the Premier League. I'm thinking, fantastic. All of a sudden, the club have accepted, because it's new owners. Irving Scholar was one of the main guys. Obviously, a deal had been done. I'm at the point of my career now where I'm thinking, let me see. Why not? Let me see what's going on. Never been abroad, may never get the chance to play abroad. Yeah, it's Turkey, but if you don't go, you're not going to find out.
Brilliant.
Why not?
Brilliant.
I'm a boy from Brixton. I can make it out of Brixton, Graham. I can make it anywhere, trust me. That's my thought process. So, speak to my agent, and
This was Stretford at the time?
Paul Stretford at the time. And there was some red tape to get through. So I was in London at the airport hotel for a couple of days. So we get to the airport. Just as I'm getting on the plane, my phone rings. It's Pierre Van Hooydonk. Tell me it's not true. Tell me it's not true. So I'm saying, Pierre, what are you talking about? So he says, the club have sold you. I says, no, I'm going for talks now. I'll speak to you when I reach Turkey. So I get on the plane, go over. I get off the plane and I call him. So I said, Pierre, what's going on? So he said, if they sell you, Kev, I'm not going back. Because me and Pierre were the highest goal scoring partnership in Europe.
You'd knocked in one season over 50 goals together. 60
odd goals.
Yeah.
So Pierre says he's not going back. So I laughed. I said, Pierre, come on, don't be silly. You go back. And I know you're on a break because you're in international duty.
Yeah.
But I said, I'm gonna see what's going on over here, because why not? So get through the airport, and as we're on our way out, there's 10,000 Trabzon fans at Istanbul airport. It's not even Trabzon.
No.
And I'm taken aback. I'm like, what? Who are they here? So they're standing for you, and the adulation is crazy. I've not kicked a ball for the football club, but it's the passion of the fans. The fan base was incredible. So I was like, wow. So we go and meet the Bashkan, and Ali Yilmaz and the people, and we get talking. And we're talking football, etc. And I said to the chairman, I want to see Trabzon. And they said, no, we want to sign the contract now. I says, no. I want to see Trabzon.
Smart.
I want to see Trabzon. I want to know where I'm going to be playing my football. So, they're deliberating, and he says, okay, you and your people can go and see Trabzon. I says, Bashkan, don't worry. Let me go and see. Trabzon is a working class town on the Black Sea. It's not Istanbul, but it's a beautiful city.
Okay.
And we flew into Trabzon, and there was 15,000 fans at this small airport, and they were out the cars and the banners that my picture in Trabzon kits already. It really was like crazy. So I'll get to the training ground, to have a look around the training ground, and that's what done it, Graham. When I looked at the training ground put England to shame.
Really?
And I was thinking, it's Turkey. I might have to rough it a little bit. It was better than what I saw in England. Facility-wise, it was better. Mm-hmm. You had your own bedrooms at the training ground, etc., etc. Lovely pitches. Everything was meticulous. I thought I could have some of this. So saw the stadium, etc. Stadium weren't the greatest, 30,000 seat stadium, except, hey, listen, a ground's a ground. Training ground is where it really happens.
Yes.
See the Black Sea, beautiful seaside town. Thought, right, I could have some of this. So we flew back, got back, and I went into the meeting with the chairman with a straight face, like I wasn't happy, and you could see him. He was like, we've seen Trabzon and he doesn't like it. And then I smiled and I put my hand across the table, and he was over the moon, and I signed a contract, etc. Went back to Trabzon the next day, met the players, and that was the start of my Trabzonspor journey.
Because there's so much to talk about in your career, you have to excuse me for skipping to 2 games.
No, you have to.
Because for those, I think most people that listen to our podcast will already know a bit about Trabzonspor, will know a bit about Turkish football. Certainly have to listen to Selez, who was brilliant on Life in Istanbul. And he had a mentality a little bit like yours. He was open, he wanted to learn, he soaked it all up, he walked through the bazaars, he talked about the smells, the sights, the feeling. Aromatic. The feeling's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you played in 2 astonishing games. I think the late goal against Fenerbahce, one of the big 2-3, bigger, I think, across history than Trabzonspor.
Yes.
But to play in a game against one of the most famous clubs in Europe, certainly the dominant club in Turkey, the one that everybody else loves to hate,
yes.
which is Galatasaray, in the famous stadium, Ali Sami Yen, which is a pushy wee place. I think on that day of days for you, it held about 20,000 fans, but I've heard you talking about the racket, that you'd never heard anything like it. Yeah. Without spoiling your story, because I'm going to hand to you like a good midfielder should, you play against Galatasaray, it's 2nd v 3rd. Mm-hmm. We're just past the anniversary, because it's in November, so the temperature would have been just about right for a Brit abroad, I think. If you play that game in July, it's a different kettle of fish. But I mean, if you could have picked a game in your life, having won trophies already, and you'd got promotion with Nottingham Forest, European trophy with Arsenal, the league, but something clicked for you that day, because we're talking about goals and an assist, and describe it.
Well, I've got to mention pre-game first. We get to Istanbul the Saturday. The game is on the Sunday.
Sunday night, yeah.
And for anybody who's listening to this pod, you've got to understand these games are life and death. Trabzonspor are the only big team that are not in Istanbul. Hour and a half flight into Istanbul. So we get into Istanbul, we go to the hotel, Graham, and the Galatasaray band is already doom, doom, doom. The drums and the horns, and anybody who drives by who are Galatasaray beat their horns. So they're going to be there, and it's on rotation. It's on heavy rotation. So from the moment we got there till the moment we left the hotel.
The idea is no sleep.
No
rest, no peace.
There's no peace for anybody. You go on your walk, they're following you on your walk. They're making sure you can't even concentrate, Graham. It's crazy. So that Saturday afternoon, we actually left there and we went to a Trabzonspor supporters club do. And for me, this is like, wow. We left the hotel. We were there for about 5 hours, Graham.
Sure.
Before that, it was, and there was pictures and you name it, it was going on, and it was about 5,000 Trabzon fans.
Because now footballers are all delicate flowers. You must have them in a closed-off laboratory in the 24 hours before a game. Nobody can blink an eye.
Breathe on them. Nobody could go there.
It's Hollywood.
No,
this was like in with the
up
troops.
Close and personal with the fan base. Massive opportunity. Pictures, you name it. We done it. Got back to the hotel. Band were there. Went up. Had some food, everybody to bed, got up in the morning, you have your breakfast, come out, the band are there, they're following you. This is, because the kickoff's that night, so it's the Sunday, have the team talk, get out, band were still there, armed guard on the way to the stadium. But here's the great thing, this was great. As we come out the hotel and we get on the coaches, you have the outriders, you have the 2 armoured vehicles.
Yeah, like sort of
as a
small
convoy.
tanks.
Small armoured vehicles like little tanks, baby tanks. Outriders behind. As we get on the coach, and as we're about to set off, about 20 Galatasaray fans out of a side street come, do the windows in.
Stones and bricks and stuff?
Yeah, do the windows in on the coach. Luckily, the coach double glazing.
Right.
And rubber bullets down the alley, to just disperse them, and off we go. But you could feel the atmosphere. That set the tone of the atmosphere for me.
You loved it?
Oh my God, it was like, yeah. So you get to the stadium and the chanting's going on, etc. Get into the bowels of the Alice Amieni, you get into the dressing room and everybody's preparing. You can see some of the guys' faces are contorted with nerves. And I'm on the massage table, Graham, and I got Murat on one leg and Shafiq on the other. And they say, come on, this is your game, this is your game, you've got to do it. I says, don't worry, guys. Because we've prepared for them.
Yeah.
And they were a great side. You're talking about Hakan Şükür, who was probably one of the best strikers in
a good striker. International.
Hadji.
One of the great modern footballers.
One of the great modern footballers. Popescu. Taffarel in goal.
Brazilian World Cup keeper in goal. Chica Popescu, sweeper or centre-back, whatever, yeah?
Centre-back, sweeper, whatever you want to call him. Dimitrescu was in there. You had Okan, Emre, Tugay. Wonderful team, absolutely great team. We had some fantastic
and possibly coached by Fatih Terim, the number one coach of all time in Turkey.
In Turkey, and they were perennial winners. Really top side. We had some good players. Turkish internationals. Ogun was our captain. Abdullah was international left back. Short left wing back, Unal, who was one of the darlings of Turkish football, and who, when I was in the under-21s, I watched him play in the main game, and he played against Paul Gascoigne, and he run the shot.
Wow.
And I was like, who is that? Okay. And I got to play with him. He was amazing. He was getting a little bit older.
Did he eventually become boss?
Yeah. When I went back 20 years later, he was the boss. So that was the build-up to the game. So everybody's getting together. Right? We're going out, and at the Alice Amieni, you come out behind the goal. The riot police have got their shields up, and all you could hear is hitting the shields. And there's a little old boy with a bucket, and.
Get your rocks here! Get your rocks here!
But there were rocks. There were like these little balls with nails in, coming over, just bouncing off, just to intimidate you. So he was putting them all in the bucket, So we're going on the pitch, and I thought, Kev, just turn round. So I turned round. He's taking them back for round 2 when we're coming off. He's just taking them back to the fans. The experience was amazing. As soon as you get on the pitch, I mean, the music, the fans, the noise was incredible. Warm up, prepare. Great atmosphere, welcome to hell. You saw it under Man United, it was there. Cut the atmosphere with a knife. So we come back in, come bouncing off the riot shields, and you get in, and the chairman comes in. And as 6 bodyguards come in, chairman comes in the bashkan, and he's got Shafiq interpreting for me, He said, this is a very serious game, guys. He says, I've got a bet on with the chairman of Galatasaray. It's really important you win today, guys. Really important. This is about pride today. So the masseurs were working even quicker. It was crazy. So he left. The masseurs were like, come on. So we all got together. So we all went out, and the game was spectacular. It really was spectacular. There was controversy. There was goals.
8 of them.
8 goals. I ended up,
Can I throw at you, because I don't want to cut your flow. Your first goal, I think, is a microcosm of your career. You're in the right place. The strike is right-footed. It's really well placed. It's good. Second goal, I love. Kudos to the assist as well, which I think people don't mention in this game. It's a hat-trick in the game of... I don't know if it's the game of your life, but the way you've built it up, the amount of pressure, the way in which you're still relatively new there.
I am new,
It's halfway through your overall spell there. The chairman's in your case, the golf balls with the nails in them are coming down. The calmness of the second one, where you kind of show as if you go one way. You drag it with your right foot, and there's a little golf shot out the bunker with your left foot over the keeper, over Taffarel. Who, had he intentionally dissed you, or was it a mistake by him pre-match?
You'd have to ask Taffarel that. But I was using everything.
Okay.
I was using, because that's what you have to, in battle, Graham, throughout my career, I've used people telling me I can't do it.
Like it.
As fuel. That's fuel for me. He can't do that. You'll never make a pro. You're a kid from South London, you're a kid from Brixton, you'll never make it out, you'll never play for Arsenal, you never do it. Really? Okay. So that was my fuel. So when I heard what he'd said, obviously he probably didn't know Kevin Campbell.
Because it's either, who's Kevin Campbell, never heard of him, or, I don't know Kevin Campbell. And they're 2 different things, but to you, it's just material.
I'm using that material to fuel me.
And for those who don't remember, Kim, you talked about Pierre being on international duty. Well, he'd been at the World Cup and playing in the semi-final in Marseille against Brazil.
That's right.
The very Brazil who went to the final, in the Zidane final, the Ronaldo final, where he has a fit beforehand. And Taffarel, if I'm not wrong, is in goal in the World Cup final.
He's a goalkeeper.
So that's July to November, is 4 months before this game, where you 3-passed him in a 5-3 win.
That's right.
And why I go back to the second is that absolute calmness. I'm not sure how often in your career you'd accept a comparison with a Messi finish or a Gerd Müller finish when I was growing up, because I thought your ability to know where the angle was, where the space was, timing you struck the ball really well, but also it wasn't just power, it was a knowledge of where the space might be. But this is just a beautiful cut and a little dink. And that is when I think strikers, everything goes like crocodile inside him. It all goes quiet and cold, and you're like,
cool.
I know. And there was a thing of beauty.
There was a calm, and the way we played, because we'd prepared so much, and this is the thing that shocked me about Turkey. If you've got a game on a Saturday, you're in camp from the Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. That's big.
You're locked down.
So, by in camp, you mean?
By in camp, I mean you turn up in the morning.
On the Wednesday morning.
And you are not coming out until after the game.
It was a sensational result, and I guess it's a small part of why 20 years later you can turn up unannounced and stop the city.
But Graham, can I just add this bit?
Yeah.
There were two real points of that game that really stood out for me. Forget the hat-trick. I scored a hat-trick, which I'm so proud of. Galatasaray's first goal, anybody...
It wasn't over the line.
It wasn't over the line.
Yeah.
But I had to speak to our captain and some of the players to continue because they were going to abandon the game.
Because they thought it was a bent decision.
Yes. And that, for me, you can clearly see it's not over the line.
Yeah.
The linesman flagged that it was over the line. It wasn't over the line.
And some of your teammates in today's standards would have been sent off because they before they think of chucking it, they harassed the referee.
They harassed the ref, yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. I mean, emotions are high. I mean, anybody who has ever played in a big game or been in high pressure, where we take the lead and then that goal is given. But I was speaking to the guys and I was, look guys, come on. We've got this. We've got them. We know what they're going to do. Let's play. Let's play. So that was one point. And the other point of this, Graham, was after the game, I'd met a disabled boy in a wheelchair. And I said, this game's dedicated to you.
Sensational.
And after the game, there was 8,000 Trabzon fans there. Normally, away fans, you don't.
No danger.
But Trabzon fans are everywhere. They're all over Turkey, especially Istanbul. So there was 8,000 Trabzon fans there, and this disabled boy was there. And that moment, which I made that promise to him, this game's for you. And I gave him my shirt after, and he burst out crying. And that, for me, is what it's all about.
Sensational.
Graham, that is the hat trick, great, but to win away and to do that was it made my
because
time.
you get paid, you occasionally get trophies that are special, but to have gifts where you can gift something that another person, in this instance, it's this Trabzon kid who happens to be disabled, but to be able to take your gifts and use them so that somebody else can feel similarly to what you feel, that's a big privilege.
Oh, massive privilege. Massive privilege.
Before we end on Turkey, we've got sponsors who keep us going. So Bet365 has sent us this straight question. What was the main difference between playing in England and playing in Turkey? The difference?
Yeah, the main difference was, for me, the technical aspect. I think England's gone that way now, where it's a lot more technical, but everything was geared to technical. How you build from the back, how the midfielders link with the forwards. There was real emphasis and onus on how it's all pieced together. And as I said, how the training was structured was totally different to how it's structured in England. Maybe because the elements, the weather at times in England, but in Trabzon, in the summer it's warm and in the winter it's cold. So I was at home. When it rains, I was at home. Snow, it snows in Trabzon, I really enjoyed it. But just the way things are structured. And I remember coming back and I joined Everton. And I said to Everton, you watch Turkey in the next World Cup. You watch them. And they were saying, Turkey, get up. I said, I'm telling you, keep an eye on Turkey in the next World Cup. And they finished third in that World Cup. The only team to beat them was the team who won it was Brazil. They were very, very strong. They had some technically gifted players in that squad. And I was proud to go there and play for Trabzonspor Football Club.
Can we talk formation? I wasn't going to ask this, but you've mentioned it a couple of times. Brixton. Brixton growing up, volatile. I remember in the late 70s, early 80s, I'd have been quite irate about sus laws. You would watch it. It was outright frightening, outright stunning what was going on in the capital of our country. What was your experience of it like?
I had a happy upbringing, I've got to say. Didn't have a lot, but brothers and sisters, friends. Just loved playing football, obviously. For all the tough stop and search, those sus laws were rancid.
Effectively, that meant that any cop could stop anybody anybody in theory, but it would traditionally be anybody who was black. And for no reason. With
no reason.
background.
Search you, stop and search. I remember being stop and searched 4 times in an hour. How do you get stop and search 4 times in an hour? And that was walking to Brixton, being in Brixton and walking back. I got stopped 4 times. So that just tells you, it was rancid, it wasn't right, it was targeted, and it was downright racist. It was racist, the police were racist. But again, Graham, I wanted to make it out. I've always wanted to play football, I've always had that drive to play football, but you've got to use your environment to your benefit. You have to. Now, whether it's you use the SOS laws or you use the fact that people are being racist, because football was racist back then. I went to my first game in 1977. That was to Arsenal. And I was shocked because there was no racism there. I was 7 years old. Me and my friends cobbled together the money. We went up there. We couldn't afford to get in, so we had to kind of sneak in the North Bank.
I'm a detail man. Everybody snuck in, but how was your sneaking in? Under turnstile?
No,
Lifting over?
No. It's when they opened the gate to let people out. I was a big kid. I couldn't get underneath it. So when they opened the gate, we'd be in.
And gone.
And gone. Well, there's thousands of people and they're not going to look for you. So we shot in, and seeing the green turf and seeing Arsenal play was just like, it was magical. It really was magical. And I supported Arsenal way before then. But to be at Highbury and to witness it and see black faces and white faces supporting the team, it was unbelievable. But you have to use that environment to your benefit to progress.
More fuel.
More fuel again. Always use that to be my fuel. The police, the police are going to respect me. And they're only going to respect me when you do something. They're only going to respect you when you do something. So I wanted to be a pro. And when the policemen stopped me and they realised who they're stopping, hey, Kev, how you doing? Da, da, da. And that's what happens eventually. And that for me it's a bit like a legacy plan. You plan your legacy moving forward. So anytime you go back and people see you, they respect you. You're not disrespectful to anybody, but in order to get where you want to get, sometimes, Graham, just through your own sheer will isn't enough. You need some drivers and you need to light some fires underneath you. And those were the fires when I was young.
And how did it get you to London Calling then?
There was a scout called Fred Ricketts, who South London was a hotbed.
Yeah.
And Michael Thomas, who scored that famous goal at Anfield, who then went on to play for Liverpool, etc. We went to the same secondary school. So he was a few years older than me. And he was playing for South London, Inner London, England. He was playing for England as a schoolboy. I was coming through and I was always looking at him. Andy Gray, who played at Crystal Palace, Aston Villa, etc., lived round the corner from me when I was young.
Falkirk as well, I think.
Yes, central midfield.
And played for Marbella.
Yes.
If I'm not wrong.
He did.
In a friendly where I turned up on my holidays to Marbella to find Peter Reid and Kerry Dixon unofficially guesting for them.
You're right.
I'm telling you, I was there. Andy, I remember Andy Gray.
Yeah, Andy Gray, he was a great guy. His brother, Nicky, and me were school pals. So seeing him starting to go through the ranks, trying to get into professional football, was fantastic. And
you believe there's a pathway because you can see it.
Well, that's the thing. If he can do it, and he always spoke to me, he knew I was really good at football, stick at it, you can do it, da da da. And that's what you need. And then, you know, you work out, right, Andy's doing it, so I'll do it this way. And then you get to secondary school and Michael Thomas is there and you see Michael Thomas going through. You know, at the time, you couldn't sign for clubs until you were 12 years old. So me and Michael go to Chelsea and train at Arsenal and do that. You could train all over the place, so that's what we were doing. You know, I don't think there was any day I got in before midnight. Any day.
And you're travelling at 11, 12 all across London.
All across London.
By the tube or the bus or whatever.
Tube, bus, you know, at Chelsea used to get dropped off down at the Oval. This was probably midnight, get the night bus up, walk it home. You know, I was 11 years old.
Still go to school the next day?
Of course.
Always?
Always. But if I never went to school, I never got to play football.
There's the incentive.
That was the deal.
There's the incentive.
Mama Campbell, that was the deal with Mama Campbell. If you're going to do it,
She had tough,
do it properly.
She had tough rules.
Well, the rules were set. So you either abide by them or you fall by the wayside. And I abided by the rules because I wanted it so much, Graham.
And then you've hinted, I don't know what your take is, but you've hinted on like two guys really. I mean, I think you adored, like I did, watching Chippy Brady when you were a fan. And in Chippy's team, just as in the double team of Frank McClintock and George Graham Bob Wilson, was this guy Pat Rice. Yeah. And Pat would have been a form of influence on you before we even start talking about Gunnar George. Am I right? Describe what it was with Pat Rice.
Being a young player, academy player at Arsenal, coming from South London and coming into that environment at Arsenal. You've been at other clubs and then you come into the Arsenal environment. Arsenal was the one place where I believe the coach had my back, believed in the players, treated everybody the same. There were no favourites. And now I could concentrate on football, Graham. You know, all the other periphery stuff could be moved out of the way. Now I could concentrate on football. And you know, Graham, I was at the Emirates a few years ago with my friend. And Pat Rice, he had a cancer scare and he overcame that. And he was at the ground when we were there. And my friend pulled Pat aside and asked him a question. And I didn't even know the answer to this. And when he told me, I was shocked. My friend asked Pat Rice, Kev, growing up, was part of that team coming through with David Healy and stuff. You know, how good was he? And Pat Rice said to him, well, they'd got wind that clubs up north, Man United, etc., were going to come and take me. But he said they created a Sunday team to make sure I was totally committed to Arsenal.
Brilliant.
I remember us all of a sudden having a Sunday side.
But you didn't know why.
I had no idea why. But it was, for me, it was great because, fair enough, you know, my Sunday team, I don't play for you, I play for Arsenal now. Myself, David Hillier, all the boys, Stephen Ward, we're all together having a great time, enjoyed it. I didn't know why. I didn't know the reason, and that was the reason why. And
that's pretty special.
That is special, but that's typical Arsenal. Arsenal are not going to let you know why.
Was it a very... I think Pat was quite a disciplined, quite a demanding man, but I think that was the environment too, really... Order, rules, dress, comportment, language, all this kind of stuff.
Being in Arsenal at that time, my peers, you got Dave Rocastle.
Brilliant footballer.
Who, not only was he the South London Brazilian, as a man, young man, he's so impressive. Loved the club, loved football. Could go to him with anything, any issue, and he'll guide you in the right direction.
Again, unusual in the hierarchy of dressing rooms.
In the hierarchy in dressing rooms. Paul Davies, Pops, who was just like a father figure, called him Pops, still do to this day. Calm, you know, impressive, wand of a left foot, been through everything that you want to go through, had the stick early doors that you're not good enough, overcame that, kept playing his football, became a legend. That's someone you could hold your hat on. Michael Thomas, who I've known from school, who'd gone on to get in the team and be such a star. And Gus Caesar, he was another one who weren't quite there, but he was always somebody you could speak to, always somebody who would give you the advice. And that was a little core of brothers. And I was the young one coming into that environment. And to know, not only were they the brothers, the likes of Tony Adams, David O'Leary. Many people don't know David O'Leary was so good to me coming through. He used to pick me up and drop me off at the station and stuff like that. At times where I was a youngster coming through to the first team squad. Obviously, you're in with Pat Rice. Pat Rice is as tough a coach as I've ever had in my life. But again, there's method to it. He said, my job is to get you from the youth team into the reserves. That's my job. When you go into the reserves, your job then is to get from there to the first team. The quicker I can get you from here to there, is the quicker you progress. So he used to be brutal with me at the beginning.
For example?
For example, we'd done 2 sessions, hard sessions. The lads would be having their lunch. Bag of balls, come on. Session number 3. And he done this session once, Graham, where he booted the balls all over the field as far as he could. And he said, right, you're on time. Want you to go get the ball, dribble back to me, beat me, put it in the net. Every one you miss, you're doing a run. And he said, there's no side footers into the net. I said, I want you to hit. We done that 7 times.
How tired were you at the end?
I was on my knees. I was on my knees, Graham. Honestly, I was on my knees.
Bet you were.
And he wasn't just easy Ozzy.
Because people hate doggy runs, but that was doggy runs.
Doggy runs are like
directions,
15, 20.
treble the distance.
15, 20. This was balls in the opposite box. Balls over there, out. You had to go and get them and come back. Come on, beat me. Go on, hit it. Right, go and get the next one. You know, that
Brilliant.
tempo.
Brilliant.
I was finished. So, and even when I missed it, right, you owe me a run, you owe me another one. Right, I've accumulated them, you're doing one more. It was like, what? So he sat me down at the end. And we used to do this religiously. So he sat me down at the end. He said, why am I doing this? He said, do you think it's punishment? I said, yeah, I think it's punishment. I said, because there's other strikers there who you don't do it to. And he said, just think, there's other strikers there and they're not here. The switch flipped in my head. Next day, I was waiting with the bag of balls in my hand. And I said, Pat, come on. Next day. David Hillier used to come and wait he got off the coach and was waiting in the opening by the dressing room. We just used to watch. And Pat Rice said to him, do you want to join in? So he said, yeah. So he joined in, and we were the first 2 to make it through. And we'd come through I'd known Dave since I was 6 years old. He was my best mate. And both of us got into that 1991 title winning team.
Brilliant.
So it's not rocket science. It's hard work that gets you there, Graham. But there has to be a purpose to it.
Personality too. I know so many players, so many people, let's not say players, who wouldn't have reacted well, who would have reacted badly to that, would have taken it the wrong way. And off the back of it, I have to ask you what they would say here in Spain is a pregunta agridulce, bittersweet. Because you win the title not long afterwards, but you get loaned out, successfully loaned out at exactly the wrong time. you get loaned out in the Michael Thomas season.
Yeah.
So Bet365 have asked me to ask you, what were you doing on the day that Arsenal went to Anfield on the last day of the season and won? Because you should have been there, either on the pitch.
I've got a great story.
Where were you and how did it feel?
I've got a great story, Graham. I was there. I travelled with the team.
Because you've been on loan.
I've been on loan, but my loan had finished. So I'd come back to Arsenal at the time. I was in the squad, but obviously there was only 2 subs at the time, etc. So just to be a part of it was fantastic. Normally the team leave the day before. George Graham said, no, we're doing it SAS style. We're going to go up we're going to meet up in the morning.
George.
We're going to go in, do the business, and we're going to come out. He said, we're going to go up and we're going to beat them 2 or 3-0. We're going to come back. And you could imagine the lads were like, Liverpool had lost by 2 clear goals at Anfield for donkey's years. Anyway, I remember the day like it was yesterday, Graham. I got up at 4 o'clock in the morning, had a shower, got my stuff together, went down to Brixton Town Hall. Dave Rocastle, wife, girlfriend at the time, Janet, lived in Acre Lane. He was coming to pick me up from Brixton Town Hall, picked me up at 5 o'clock, drove over to Highbury. We were putting the skips on it. Dave Rocastle is playing in the game tonight.
And he's loading the kit.
We're loading the kit. Skips and boots and you name it, everything on. So we gets on the coach, me, Rocky, Tony Donnelly, the kit man, and Frank, the driver. Up to London Colney we go, meet all the lads there, set off for Anfield, set off for Liverpool. George Graham puts a 1971 FA Cup final on, where he reckons he got a touch.
No, never. Charlie George all the way.
We rewinded that spot about 400 times because the lads wouldn't have it. You never got a touch, Gaffer.
You never
He's
get
on the mic, I touched it, look, I touched it, rewind. And it was the old video, you know, where you had to punch the buttons in and rewind it. Rewind it, look, I got a touch. He never got a touch. But he's still claiming it.
It's the final to win the double. It goes, eventually Charlie George gets the winner.
That's right.
Against Liverpool. Against Liverpool.
And that's one where Charlie George lays down.
Flat out in the
lays down flat.
It was the beginning of grandstand for years and
That's
years
right.
and years.
Iconic. It's iconic. So that kind of broke the journey up. You hit a little bit of traffic. You're going up to Liverpool. It takes the guy's mind off things. You get into Liverpool. You go and have a bit of lunch and, you know, you go to the rooms, etc., etc. The nervous, I'm not even playing, but I'm feeling...
This stage you've been up for 12 hours already.
Oh, yeah. There's no sleeping. Some of the boys get to sleep, some of the boys don't. You know, we're all having a laugh. Team talk, he names the team. He's going to name the subs at the ground. Keep everybody focused. So we get to the stadium and we see Arsenal, we see Everton fans. Please, you know, giving it all that. It was great. Please. So we get to Anfield and the atmosphere is unbelievable. And Graham, I think there has to be a bit of a human side to it as well because Arsenal, they've always been a classy club, and Arsenal, obviously, it was the Hillsborough disaster.
It's the reason the game got
delayed
to the last
delayed
game.
So much, you know, and they said, you know, whatever, in the heat of battle, we'll battle them. But beforehand, we're going to make sure every player has a wreath, has a bouquet of flowers and goes and gives it to the Liverpool fans as a gesture of faith from Arsenal, you know, Arsenal players. So we're gonna battle you once the whistle goes.
But for the moment, there's respect.
For the moment, this is the respect, you know.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's the right thing.
As anybody watches the footage, the Arsenal players come out with the wreath and they go all around the state, all around the ground, and they give it, and then they come back, consolidate, and then the game kicks off. And myself and likes of Paul Davis, etc., we're in with the Arsenal fans behind the goal.
Way.
No, seriously, we're behind the goal, and it's amazing because Steve Bolt goes close early on. You know, we get up, we're back being fans.
Yeah, brilliant.
We're getting up and fans are like hugging us and all that. We're thinking, wow, we're going close. And George Graham said it before the game. He says, if it's 0-0 at half time, we got them where we want them. And you can imagine, we're like, wow. But he was supremely confident. Then Alan Smith scores at our end. We're going nuts, Graham. It's brilliant.
That must have been utterly off the scale.
Off the scale.
Not because you're working for the club, it's your club.
Not only am I a fan, I'm a player who trains with these guys. I feel part of it, although I'm not getting a medal or anything. I feel part of it because all of the work that's gone on in that week, I've been part of. And the club have nearly let it slip. We should have won the league 5 games before. But Liverpool came back like a train. So now it's down to this. Alan Smith scored. We're delighted. Then I don't know if you remember, Michael Thomas has an opportunity where it kind of gets caught under his feet. And everybody thinks that's the chance.
It's gone now.
It's gone now. You know, everybody's a bit down. And then Kevin Richardson goes down with cramp. And then Steve McMahon saying 1 minute. John Barnes gets the ball, he kind of going to the corner, and then he cuts in as if he's... That's the way Liverpool were. John Barnes was an incredible player. But Kevin Richardson, dogged how he is, ex-Everton, nicks the ball, gets it back to Lukic. And then the rest is history. Lukic to Dixon, Dixon to Smith.
Can you see?
I can see it now.
Because I know from, if you're behind the goal, sometimes you're leaping about, you're shouting. I know the difference between watching a game and supporting.
No, Graham, we moved from there. Because with 5 minutes to go, we come out of the Arsenal section and we're led round the pitch because we're going to go in the dressing room. So we go and we're lined up near the tunnel, so we're crouching down and players are, you know, we're all down there and I'm watching the build-up and this is me, I see it goes there and I know Michael's going to run and as he goes through, I'm up and I don't know if you see the footage, when he scores you see legs at the side. I lost it. I was about to run on the pitch, but the coppers grabbed me. The local police grabbed me, and they had to say, no, he's with Arsenal, you know, he's with the Arsenal. So they said, don't, you know, you can't get on the pitch, you can't go on the pitch. I've lost it. You know, to score so late, it's over.
And it's your long-term mate from South London.
From South London, you know, Stockwell boy.
It kind of feels as if it's meant.
It's meant to be. And this is how football is, and this is one of the reasons why I love football so much, Graham. Arsenal won the game. Liverpool lost it. Whistle goes. Obviously, there's disappointment at Anfield. Big disappointment. They've just thrown away the title as far as they're concerned. They clap Arsenal, clap the team. When Arsenal lift the trophy, the Liverpool fans clapped. After the game, in the dressing room, knock at the door, Roy Evans, Ronnie Morat, all those guys come in, say, listen, here's some more champagne, you deserve it. Any team that comes here and wins deserves the title, but we'll see you next year, you know. Have to make sure they get that bit in, we'll see you next year. But for me, to see that class was important. Mm-hmm. And looking around and looking at guys I trained with and worked with, they were so humble, they were just chilled out. There was no real big celebrations. Everyone was just sat back. We were talking, we were having a drink and having a laugh and stuff like that. I don't think it actually kicked in at the time. But you would think, people would think they'd be going crazy. I know the fan base were going crazy. But the team were, that's what I loved about that team. We never went crazy. Because, you know what, Graham? And the culture was quality, win. Win. We wanted to be that type of team where winning was part of your being, as it were. It's not so much the case now.
For Everton, you were something of a saviour because your run of goals when you arrive is extraordinary. You work for 2 Scottish managers, each of them I know really well. But who was Baz Rathbone? Was he the physio?
He was the physio under David Moyes.
Because I believe that as he turns up with sort of double denim. He's come from, I think, Brixton,
yeah.
An little check shirt. And he gets greeted by a big, strong Scottish voice saying, "Oh, we've signed Bob the Builder." And Duncan Ferguson says to him, "I've finished a few physios here." And Baz goes, "Well, I've finished a few footballers too." And Big Dunk says to you, "We've got a good one going here." Yeah. And it struck me that if you think about Walter, Big Dunk Ferguson, Gravison, a different type of character, but you played at 2 clubs with Scott Gemmell, who's a chum of mine as well. It's hard to understand why that Everton group was in difficulties, but it's easy to understand why, with your quality and personality, you would have fitted absolutely perfectly. And I know you're adored there, above and beyond the Derby goal. And I wonder if that was a group where you were happy, and was that part of the reason for your performances? And did you have as big a natural connection with Don Hutchison as he told me last night that you had, that you loved playing together?
Yeah. Let me take the last bit first. Certain players play together and they just click. You don't have to work at it. You don't have to try and manufacture it. It just works. You're just on the same wavelength. I was like that with David Hillier. I was like that with Anders Limpar. I was like that with Rocky. Don Hutchison was that level, probably higher. He knew me and I knew him. I knew what he was going to do when he got the ball. I'd just make the move and the ball would be there.
It must have been an amazing sensation.
Do you know, as a striker, Graham, as a striker when I was at Everton, I could go to bed, and I don't sleep a lot. I could go to bed and I could sleep sweet, because I knew this is my supply line. I know my supply line. Hutch always looked for me. Scotty Gemmell could pick a pass. John Collins could pick a pass.
Good player.
Very good player. Scott Gemmell could pick a pass. Tony Grant could pick a pass. Olivier Dacour could pick a pass. So if you're a striker, myself and Franny Jeffers, I know how Franny plays. I'm more of the target man, but I could hunt space too. And in fact, when Franny makes that move, that clears more space for me. So if I use my smarts,
I think that certainly separated you, because Franny was very good, but he in my view, he was always so fast out when he was young that maybe his ability to think about the panorama was slightly different to yours. I think there was an elevation from you.
Well, if you remember correctly, when I joined the club, Franny was playing with Danny Cadamartri. 2 young players, 2 very gifted players, but they were 2 young players, didn't know their way around the football pitch. When I turn up, myself and Franny, it just clicked, because I know exactly what he needs. So I can be that person who holds the ball, takes it a certain way to release it back, so his ball is one ball way straight through. These are the differences. Play together as a pair. No, Franny, don't go there, you come here, that kind of thing. Having a midfield like that in place, for me, was, I died and gone to heaven. No, Graham, honestly, I died and gone to heaven, because there weren't many times where any one of the midfielders could find you, no matter where you were. And that's why hitting the ground running was easy. It really was easy. Whether it's Hutch, Don, Olivier Dacour, Scotty Gemmell, Tony Grant. Tony Grant in the Coventry game, he's the one who
was the crucial one.
That was we'd hit the bottom 3 then, and responding was really important. So the second goal, Tony Grant plays it in and to Barmby, and Barmby knocks it across.
I was there reporting on it, and I sensed that day particularly, one of the things that I think moved you, which was like with the Trabzon fans bursting into the city ground and that you were attracted by Goodison and the ferocity of the enthusiasm and loyalty of that fan base before you joined.
Well, don't forget, Graham, I made my debut in 1988 against Everton. And it was a very different place. Racism was rife. There was myself, Michael Thomas, Dave Rollcastle, Paul Davis and Gus Caesar in the squad that day. Heard it all at the ground, warming up, racial abuse. But I know what the club are. I knew the size of the club. A lot of change had gone on at the club. And if we're going to get on, you can't hold these things against the club. Something has to happen within the club. There has to be change. And sometimes a player has to be a catalyst for change sometimes.
Well, that's enormously... I do think the right word is brave, not self-sacrificial, but that's enormously beneficent of you to have a viewpoint like that, because the traditional thing you're all taught in football is be selfish.
Yeah.
Mostly now one's upbringing or a good coach might say, no, I think, but I mean, footballers are taught to think of themselves, to be willing to try to be an agent of change in a place where you think, well, this could not go wrong, but this is where the worst things about me can be said, the worst things that's an enormous decision.
Well, for me, Graham, if you connect with a fan base and you want to be the man.
Yeah.
Remember, we're getting back to that again.
Yeah.
You want to be the man, but you can be the man being humble. You can be the man being a good man. You can be the man where they trust you. That breaks down everything else. All the stuff that can divide gets shifted aside. That all connects us. And that still connects us to this day. I became the first black captain of Everton Football Club as well, which I'm very proud of. But if you don't go into it with the right mindset, you're never going to make the change. It's never going to be that way. And Everton have had black players before me. Of course they have.
Traditionally, well, I'm a lot older than you, but while we were growing up, traditionally they didn't have many. I still think I admire not just what you achieved, becoming the first black captain, but you put a lot of yourself into the decision to go there. I admire that. I don't think many people think that way.
No, many won't. Because, Graham, many won't even think about what happened in the 80s.
Yeah.
And obviously someone I work with now, Peter Reid, that was their last real team. That was their last game. Because after that game, Gary Stephen, Trevor Stephen went to Rangers. That team got broken up. Fandenhow, Ratcliffe, Southall, that team got busted up after that. But to play against them and to go through that experience at Goodison, because it was amazing. And to now have them want me after what ended up to be a difficult time at the end in Turkey, not playing. And they reached out to me, you see. I think there was 5 clubs that were interested in me. Everton was the first one mentioned, and that Paul never got past number 1. I said, that's where, because I know the passion.
Yeah.
I know the size of club. I know they're a good club. And I looked at their squad and I saw them not doing so well. And I'm thinking, they've got internationals. They've got experience everywhere. The only place they don't have the experience is at the top end of the pitch. Now, if I can't go in there and make a difference, something's up.
Did you play, I don't know if it was it Andy Holden, or didn't you play a comeback injury game with the kids at Southport?
Yeah.
And some 14-year-old brat.
Let me tell this story. Got on the coach and I'd been injured, coming back, going to play against Southport just to make sure that the ankle's right. So I get us on the coach. loads of kids. They played with Kevin McLeod and Leon Osman and all these guys at the time. They're youngsters. There's a kid on the, ear sticking out. Ear sticking out.
This is when the camera should look at real ears sticking out.
But I thought he was one of the physio's nephew or he didn't look like a footballer or whatever. So he gets to Southport, we get to the changing room, and he's putting the top. I think, he's coming to do the warm up, putting his training kit on, gonna go out and do the warm up. Andy Holden pulls me and he says, "Kev, you've heard about this Wayne Rooney?" I said, "Well, I've heard the name. I don't know who the kid is." He said, "That's him." I said, "Oh, right." I said, "How old is he?" He said, he's 14. I said, "He's 14? He said, "Yeah." So he said, "Treat him like a first team player." Now, I'm captain of the football club, Graham. Think about that. The reserve manager is asking me to treat this kid like a first team player, play with him like a first team player, play with him basically, use your instincts like a first team player. So overs and flip balls on and all that kind of, use those instincts as if it was a first.
And don't baby him just because he looks.
Because he looks that
like
way.
a mascot.
Just play. Well, I kind of looked at him a bit sideways. I thought, okay, well, let's see, let's see. So we start the game off, Graham, and the ball gets played up to me, and I nod it down inside. Whereas normally I'd either just flick it on because he'll just can't try and run. But I get up and I nod it down inside because you want to play with your partner. So I nod it down, he gets on the ball, and the big centre half comes in to try and nick it. He bounces the centre half, reverses it back to me. I just play it in behind. He runs through, bang, it's in the bottom corner. I look over at Andy Holden, he goes like that to me.
Told you.
Just like he does that, and I'm like, geez. So you're playing on, seeing his touch, his awareness, overs, gets the ball, I make a run in behind. So it's like here, I'm here, the defender's there. I go short and I go long and the ball get played in there and I'm in. Score. And the same thing happens for me. I get the ball, he kind of shows and watch the eyes, play it in behind, he goes for again, bottom corner again. And I'm looking over at Andy Holden, 3-0 up at half time. And truthfully, I can't believe what I'm witnessing.
Yeah.
Southport, there are seasoned non-league players, men, who are playing at the back. And he's manhandling these guys at 14. I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
It shouldn't be feasible.
It shouldn't be feasible, but he's head and shoulders above anything at that age I'd ever seen. After 65 minutes, Greg, you've done enough, Kev. Normally I just go in and have a shower. I sat on the bench and I want to watch this kid. So they've moved him from centre forward to left midfield. We're playing 4-4-2. He was getting balls and he was just pinging them 80 yards across the pitch, straight to people's feet, through balls to strikers, just the awareness, knowing, letting the fullback overlapping and bending balls inside. It was like, I was gobsmacked. I was like, and he's 14.
Sure.
So I gets into training the next day. I'm always in early. So I gets in and the lads are coming and I said, boys, you've heard about this Rooney, ain't you? They said, yeah, we've heard about Rooney. I said, I played with him last night. I said, yeah, what was he like? He's half decent. I said, half decent. I said, he should be here with us now. How old is he, Kev? I said, he's 14.
Given how glittering your career has been, how much you've been loved, the trophies you've raised, the degree at which you've done all you promised yourself when you were a kid in Brixton, you've pretty much done it. Would you pick on somebody who you wish you could have played with? If you could click your fingers and just change something in your life across everybody you've seen, Who would it have been?
Probably Liam Brady. He was my hero when I was growing up. Somebody who, I love that person who could pick a pass. And Liam Brady was so great at, having that ability. And a left footer as well. I'm a right footer, and he looked so elegant, and the way he done things was like amazing. So I know there's other players who I think, I'd love to play with them. But if there was one, this is bringing me back to my youth now, Graham, which is great. It would have been Liam Brady. I would have loved to play with Liam Brady.
Just getting on the end of those lovely balls that he dinked into your path.
Weight, he's got always the right weight and the right speed.
Socks rolled down pretty much.
Yeah, it was old school football.
As genius as he was in Serie A and at Highbury, I think people have I don't know how it's happened, but people have kind of forgotten.
Bypassed him a bit.
That he was literally a kind of, as a person I don't like Platini at all, but he was every bit the player Platini was, in my view.
Yeah.
Unbelievable footballer. Glad you chose him. We've got people who've been with us from the start, and we sometimes ask them to send questions. And then Tom Lee, who's very active and very bright. I know some of the answers here. Tom says, what are you doing now? Every time I see you on TV, I think you have so much to offer. Are you getting more opportunities because you've improved a lot of the television coverage of football? And although there's no evidence of it today, what's the inspiration for the bow tie?
Good questions. The thing on TV is I do TV when I can. Being involved in so much off the field, doing humanitarian stuff, etc. I think it's key to use the position to help people. I think that's really important. I also help young players privately with disappointment, with mental health, with all that kind of stuff, which a lot of people don't know about, which I like to keep pretty private because I think it's important for young players to have somebody who speaks to them, who's been there, seen it and done it, who can talk about it from a truthful point. I understand there are people who have passed exams, etc. But passing an exam in football is different to passing an exam to get a certificate. So, and to have young sons who are coming through the ranks. My eldest boy, he's a pro. My youngest boy decided he didn't like that environment of an academy and turned around again at 15 and said, Dad, I want to play football. So I said, right, you have to start from the bottom rung of the ladder. So he said, no problem. So now he's playing non-league football and my eldest son's playing at Stoke. So to have that disparity of difference, and both of them have different mindsets, because the young one now wants to move quick. Mm-hmm. I said, no, you have to learn your trade. Mm-hmm. The eldest boy has understood it all the way through Man City, etc. Knew at 16, he's a Man City fan, knew at 16, I've got to get out because I need that pathway. Left there, went to Stoke. 5 managers down, finally he's starting to get his...
And then football, as it will always do, deals you a sore one because we're going to miss him for a couple of months now, at least, aren't we?
Yeah, he's unfortunately had to deal with an injury, which happened innocuously in a game. His stats and numbers were very good. The Tom-Toms tell me that the bid was coming in, that this was going to be the last months or certainly last season at Stoke. He's that good, he's that well valued, that's exciting, but given the measure of what you've been talking about, I know that like Mark Campbell, like Pops did for you at the training ground, that the two boys will have a lot of wisdom and not caution, but calmness passed on to them. Well, I'm going to give you an exclusive. No, seriously, I'm going to give you an exclusive, Graham, because during all this pandemic, I lost my father.
That's awful.
But not to COVID. Mm-hmm. My dad had a stroke. Nobody knows this because I don't. Yeah. All this stuff I don't put out there because it's personal to the family.
Yeah.
But when you mention about going through tough times and difficult times, it's how you deal with it that counts. And my son didn't really have a lot of time seeing his granddad. But my dad, his granddad always spoke highly and he always got the message, if you know what I mean. So that focus about who you are, pretty much the Arsenal mentality. Rocky used to always say, who you are, what you are, and who you represent. You know, he's got a tattoo of, you know, my dad.
Wow.
And that means so much to him to know that this family, this Campbell family, give him the pride, give him the insight and the knowledge to push forward, because it's not only is it focus, not only is it mental toughness, which he's going to learn a bit more about himself now, but he wants to be the man at the top. And you have to go through adversity to be the man at the top. If it's given to you, Graham, you never get there, because when it starts going tough, you've never been through toughness, and when it hits you, you won't know how to handle it. Hence why 5 managers in at Stoke. Hence why an injury now after he's started to do well. It's all character building. He knows his talent. He respects his talent. And like any good Campbell should, you take your steps, but you never keep your eye off that prize. You always go for it. With a humility.
It's a terribly sad thing you've shared, that you lost your dad, because no matter when it happens or how it happens, it's shattering. It's something that moves the earth around you. And for 2 relative youngsters, because the boys aren't grown up, but they're
20 and 17.
That's to lose somebody dear. I'll step carefully, because I didn't know about your dad, but I'd imagine you must have been enormously proud of what you've been as a man, never mind your career, or over and above your career. And then to see it going on again in the boys' different ways. Yeah. I'm certain that you've got, what can you do in life? You must pay people back who teach you and help you grow. And everything we've talked about says that that's the case. So I'm awful sorry about that news. It was generous of you to share it. I think it's time to let you go. I don't really think that we can let you go without asking you, do you truthfully know how you and Brian Robson saved the baggies? Because they're in that same situation now. They've taken the decisions they've taken. I don't think their situation is anything near as desperate as the one that you were brought into. And yet again, some sort of Campbell magic.
I do.
With all the other elements.
I do. You're going to love the story.
What the hell?
And everything's a story, isn't it, Graham?
I think so.
I'm driving back from training at Everton. David Moyes is the manager. I'm hardly playing. And we hit January. And I'm driving back. I get a phone call. Brian Robson on the phone. Cams, how are you? He says, I've got permission to speak to you from the club. Blah, 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 blah. So I said, okay. He said, where are you? So I said, I'm just coming down the M56. So I said, perfect. He says, I'm in the Four Seasons. Why don't you stop off and we could have a coffee? So I said, okay, no problem. So 15 minutes. Go in, park up, see Brian there. Hi, he says, do you want a coffee? So I said, yeah, I'll have a coffee if you're having a coffee. He says, I don't particularly want a coffee. He said, I'm going to have a Budweiser. He said, do you want a Bud? So I said, yeah, I'll have a Budweiser.
That sounds true to
right?
Brian, yep.
15 Budweisers later. We hadn't talked football. We'd just been talking about the past and stuff, family and stuff like that. So he said, right, well, I'll see you at the Hawthorns tomorrow. So I said, and I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, I'll see you at the Hawthorns tomorrow. Obviously, I have to leave the car, gets a taxi home. Mrs. says to me, where you been? I says, I've just met Brian Robson. I'm signing for West Brom tomorrow. She said, what? I said, yeah, I'm signing for West Brom tomorrow. So she said, what happened? So I told her the story. She said, oh my God. Next day, down, signed. And I look at the people Brian Robson had around him at the time as well. Brian Robson was manager, you had Nigel Pearson was his number 2, you had Craig Shakespeare there, you had Michael Appleton there. You know, look at that vein already.
Proper men, steeped in football. Experienced.
Knew their onions. And Brian Robson said to me, he said, Cams, he says, I've got good characters in the dressing room. He said, but I need the character. That's a difference.
I'd be sold on that if somebody said that to me.
You know, I need the character. So for me, at Everton, I was doing my badges. Me, Davy Weir, Stubbsy, Fergie. We were doing our badges all at the same time. But I had to, there was a project on here.
Focus.
I had to focus. You have to focus. So I focused on going down. I mean, you're looking at the group. Jonathan Greening, Ronnie Woolwork, ex-Man United. You had Paul Robinson, Neil Clement, Big Darren Moore, Thomas Gardso. You had Holty in goal, Robert Earnshaw.
None of them is going to duck a challenge.
Darren Peirce. You know, you got Carnu. I'm thinking, what's going wrong here? So Jeff Horsfield. I'm thinking, you got the bones of a serious squad here, but something's not right. So anyway, as we start to go along, I don't go in as the big I am, no chance. I'm one of the lads and I just start learning about the boys. So we organise a few meals and we go out for a few meals and stuff like that. And the turning point, Graham, was we played Crystal Palace live on TV. And we ended up drawing the game 2 each. We were 2-1 up and they scored in the last minute. And we were going to Florida, Orlando the next day. And the key was all the boys coming together. And I know that may sound a bit foreign to people. You think, of course you're going to all be together. No, it's more than that. It is more than that. It's a collective thing that everybody has to be thinking the same. Everybody has to be going in the right direction. So we got to the ground the next morning and coach to the airport. We get on the plane. And Paul Robinson, we're talking and Paul Robinson, I said, let's get the boys some beers. So I'm going to pay. So I took the American Express black card out. And he went, well, I've never seen one of them before. Wow, bloody hell. So I said, here, why don't you look after it for the trip? For the trip.
Flipping heck.
He goes, you serious? I said, yeah, you look after. He said, now this is the trust thing now. Graham, this is really important. So all the squad, you can imagine, all the squad have bought in, all the squad are there and they've like, wow, what's going on? Kev's given his black American Express card to Paul Robinson.
Amazing.
And that's for the duration of the trip. It's not mine, it's yours. So you could imagine everyone's like, wow. I asked for it back, nothing. So you go, you buy the beers for the boys, you do bits and pieces, X, Y, Z. And we had meetings in this trip where everybody had to say their piece. And I said my piece, I said, look guys, whether we win, draw or lose, we have to leave it behind us. I said, because what happens, what I've seen with this team, we carry the defeat into the next game. I said, we can't afford to do that. I said, we've got to leave it where it is. If we win, what's the next challenge? If we lose, what's the next challenge? That's the way we have to be. I said, because we have to be proactive. We can't be reactive. During that trip, Brian Robson said to me, I want you to be captain. And I think he'd asked some of the boys, and the boys said, yeah, we want Cams as captain. So from that moment on, that was the turning point. We started to win games. We started to win back-to-back games. We started to, if we lost, we left it behind and we started picking points up. And then I got my American Express bill. which was nowhere near as much as I anticipated it to be. Because Robbo said, look, Cams, let me know and I'll give you. I said, no, I trusted you with that and I trust you. I've got to trust you on the pitch. And everybody in the squad were like, wow. And that's the ultimate trust.
Because it's an unbelievable idea. There's a PhD in psychology built in there, and I don't know if it was planned or instinct, but whatever.
It was more instinct.
But we both know, because I've interviewed and you've played with people who have used that to go out and buy a Porsche Cayenne.
Yes.
Or bought the Mrs. Holiday in Florida.
Oh, yes.
So your gesture was not without risk.
Let me tell you, the biggest part of it was they were trying to get into this club, exclusive club, and there was no way they were getting in. So Kevin Campbell Robinson appeared. And he would tell you the story. He produces this American Express black card. The rope was open. The lads were really... I think he bought a couple of bottles of Dom Perignon in there.
That would have been about $700-800 a shot.
Larged it up for an hour or so and left because he didn't feel comfortable. But fair play to him. Now, if that's going to help us keep our status...
Unbelievable.
That's what it takes.
Kevin, you would say that football's been good to you?
Incredible to me.
The end of the big interview is an opportunity for me to say that everything that we've discussed so far outstrips the intro that I gave you, because Kevin is inspirational. I hope you've been as entertained and educated as I have. The endorphins are going, the adrenaline is going. This is an example of why we do the big interview. Listen to what he said, and if you're a young kid out there, boy or girl, who's watching this and thinks, I can do it too, then that's the Kev Campbell effect.